So I know that the previous video hasn't gotten as many views, and I'm again going to start with the disclaimer that I don't hate anyone. I don't have any disdain towards anyone. We can disagree and that be that. I'm not meaning anything in a negative or harmful light. And negative, I mean in a hateful or resenting tone that will undermine someone's humanity or their right to live. Nor do I plan on disregarding anyone's opinion or suggestion. I'm I'm just genuinely confused at this point because I'm seeing such contradiction even by the LGBTQ plus community that it makes no sense. And I'm surprised that they aren't tearing themselves apart for their own standards. And what I mean by that is you're, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's several mindsets within the community that contradict other mindsets. And there are some that just, I would say, are disagreed with at mass, even from their own standpoints. I'm just going to pull up this article. And it's talking about 3 new laws that are anti-LGBTQ. They point out well-funded Christian and conservative groups have helped spur along dozens of anti-trans bills. All the talk that I've seen on these is specifically protection of innocence and protection of individuals as a whole. So HB 122, a version of the Don't Say Gay legislation, bans kindergarten through 12th grade teachers from discussing gender sexual orientation. Can I ask where stating a opinion or belief within the classroom being made specifically within that age range being made illegal is hateful, because I can go over and state many different points of beliefs and ideologies that have been removed. People have been penalized for going over and talking about religious topics. But I can tell you what is allowed within this range: the talk of evolution and the support of several different situations. I mean, you're going to go over and say the discussion of when many schools in many areas still have support, and I know this is a state legislation, but even then, outside of federal holidays, what groups are allowed to, outside of their own group, teach or discuss what they believe as fact without it being proven fact? So I have to ask also, why is it always a, well, not being allowed to talk about it is hateful. I want to understand what this point is, because why should toddlers to 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds um, have to learn about sex, learn about different opinions on, and in the case of LGBTQ, all the other definitions and stuff like that that come with. Um, HP 121, based on what I'm reading here, I have to go through and actively check, but requires teachers to get a parental permission to use the student's preferred pronouns. If a child was to have a weapon in school, were to get injured, would have to get a signed anything, because medical documentation is required for physical injury, for drug use. If there's anything that happens, if there's anything found out, um, I think it's, and I could be wrong, but if a child can go over and make a decision that could be life changing, how is it hateful to state that the child would need parental permission, or the teacher needs to have permission from their parents? Because the thing is that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but that child is still underneath their parents' or guardians' say. So if the parents do not agree with something, and for whatever reason this kid wants something, I if we really are, like, why specifically target the fact that it's required for? I'm genuinely confused, because if a child is saying, I'm this, I'm that, I feel like if mentions of self-harm have to get reported, if injuries need to get reported, if the administration of specifically medications and stuff like that um, need to go through parental permission. And I mean, shoot, you even need to go over and get parental consent to go over and give food from the lunch hall. And granted, there's a certain age range where it's kind of like, oh yeah, fine, whatever. I know many classrooms and stuff like that have like snacks, stuff like that. They need to ask parental for snacks. Could anyone explain to me why this is considered hateful or anti-trans? Because if you're saying, oh, the child needs to, I would sway in the opposite direction, because there could be something else going on. Such as if the parents didn't know up until that point, that child could be hurt, that child could be in a potentially dangerous situation. I mean, any number of things, and I could be wrong, but I feel like, and again, please let me know. Like, I would love to have a conversation about this, but I'm confused as to why teachers being required to talk with parents about it is a negative or harmful thing. And And all these seem to be schoolroom things. This one's like I'm still lost here. Bans use of bathrooms that don't match a person's sex assigned at birth. Public schools, domestic violence shelters, and correctional facilities. Am I missing something with this? I get where this is coming from in some cases, in some regards. And yes, people can do as they see fit, etc. And I know this might just be a minority mindset at this point, or a less spoken mindset. But can we agree in some regards? If you still have the genitalia which you were born with, you probably should be using your respective restroom, because that opens the door for you to get attacked and to be exploited, and you're putting yourself into a dangerous position. And even furthermore, by doing so, you're also opening up the doorway to potential accusations. I feel like this is universally, like, just in the raw nature of it. Just in the raw nature of it. Each of these that are being argued as being hateful, spiteful, and or bigoted, also get applied in reverse, because by this law, right, it's called the Don't Say Gay. I think it's let's not talk about adult content. Also goes over and states your kid will not get told anything else about sex. And high school has biology, but it's not going to be a matter of I don't even know what terminology to put or even use there. It's not necessarily a matter of ethics. It's a matter of I'm drawing a blank here, but it's your kids are going to be protected from being exposed to things that you might not want as a parent, regardless of ideological belief, outside of what you expose them to. What's wrong with that? If parents don't know that their kids are creating a different identity outside of the house, I feel like as a parent, regardless of what you see as acceptable or not, or whatever it could be, I'm pretty sure you would want to know what your kid is doing. And as I said for the last one, this prevents any party involved from getting in trouble whatsoever. And I I just I'm confused by this because everyone points it out as a negative, and it's clear what this person's stances are. It's just it's confusing me. And I'm gonna have to go over and like I do have to ask what this means. Sex discrimination. Because if you're saying that it's an idea, then what's the idea? Like, I genuinely am confused. Um, I'm definitely gonna have to look into this further to understand what's going on. I like, I like I'm confused. What is this supposed to mean? So like I'm genuinely lost. So from what I'm seeing, this is very open ended, and I've got to ask. People are throwing fits over this. Why? Like, I know why there's argument against the bill, and it's obvious that that's going to be taken out of context. It's going to be thrown around, and it's going to be used a lot, and it's going to prevent people from expressing themselves. Which, if you're going to say June is the month to express and appreciate a minority, but then by doing so, you're creating a minority and excluding them. There's a very serious issue that would then need to be addressed. So why I want to know, and I'll probably be reaching out as best I can to figure out how to reach out. How is this unfair treatment? This is offering security to parents, even of the members in that community. It prevents, I mean, just people in general. And if you're going to say teachers, what's affecting the teachers outside of not being able to speak their ideals or their ideology or their worldview? And if you're saying that this bill is specifically negative and resenting towards teachers, why should a teacher expose children to the concept of sex? Why get upset when a teacher isn't allowed to remove a child's innocence from them without parental consent, without parents knowing? But I'm pretty sure that the people who are saying that this is negative all the way around would get mad if the idea that everyone has a purpose, there is a creator, gets mentioned even the slightest. One of the biggest hypocrisies that I have to say exists is the concept of a fair and just education system that is not partial. You're going to tell me that some things are okay or not okay to speak upon, and automatically you're saying that there's other things you would not want talked about. This automatically negates, in some cases, freedom of speech, sure, but at the same time, when your kids are going to a school, they're there to learn basic life skills. They're there to learn the basics of what they need to live in the society that they're in. And it's not to be used as a platform for anyone. But yet, one of the biggest things in schools is the fact that unless you're going to a private school that is specifically centered around your ideologies, the public schools that are run off taxpayers' dollars are supposed to be devoid of any point of teaching topic. If a discussion on religion is to pop up, if there is let's just say a school club where specific kids of specific ideologies, religions, worldviews, ethics, whatever you want to say, is gathered, that is by the student's choice underneath the permission of the school. In which case, each of those need to be publicly known to parents and the participation registered and acknowledged to the parents. Harassment isn't a one-way street in my book. And where, yes, there are certain things that could lean one way or another, but I really have to ask, in raw terms, what inherently is targeting, what is resentful. Like, thinking back to that other post, they were talking about the sports teams. And I have to ask, even in raw terms, even if we don't take steroids into question, would anyone go over and say that it's better for people to participate with those of similar physical capacity? Because right out of the gate, I'm not saying anything to be hateful. I just want everyone to think about this for a second. If you're born as a guy, automatically, and sports, in all like these different physical events, stuff like that, you can see a brazen difference. And yes, where there are exceptions, a naturally born male is going to be stronger and or faster and or more endurant than that of a naturally born female. This aside, though, as I said, so to bring the steroids up, where is the exception to be made for that? Because you're using what would be known as performance enhancers, especially from trans males. You're using steroids, which would give you an advantage, which for hundreds of years, competing in physical activities at that level while using steroids was cheating. And I'm not saying this to rank on anyone, but when was using steroids at these sporting events legalized? Because last I checked, if you were using performance enhancers, you're not allowed to participate. And there was more recent examples of, I think it was like a few of like the Russian ice skaters who were confirmed to be using performance enhancing and like steroids and stuff like that, and they were removed. So I'm genuinely confused here. The second thing that I want to ask about is, and this, like, I'm lost. So VR Chat has the Trans Academy, and there's an anthropomorphic animal in the listing. I could be mistaken, but that's a change of species, not sexual orientation. How is that just to the people with gender dysphoria? How is that fair to people who are transitioning? How is that fair to anyone who had been assaulted, abused, attacked, who was ultimately impacted physically and mentally to the point where merely existing like hurts them. And I want to understand what's going on, and I would love to understand exactly what it is that this speaks to. But how does this how does this work towards, like, unless you're saying that now that more people are claiming to be not human, that transitioning is more than just male to female or female to male, but includes being an animal. And again, I want to understand where this thought process is coming from. I really do. But the more I think about it, and the more I keep seeing definitions and stuff like that changing, I see a lot of these different stances, even from your own community. And if this is anyone who's watching from the LGBTQ plus side of things, can you explain to me how this even makes, like, how is this respecting what you're claiming? How are you respecting the the and here's the thing. I'm even lost, because is it a medical condition you're referring to? Is this a I don't, like I need help here, because I've had people say that just saying not to support something or to support something else is hateful, even if they're not speaking hatefully about you. They're just saying not to support. Like, I'm genuinely confused, and I don't want to be in a position where I'm slated as redo it. I don't want to be in a position where without knowing or without understanding, uh, get put into a situation where the accusation can be thrown, oh, you're being hateful and you're being bigoted or anything else like that. I'm trying to just understand the logic behind it. I'm trying to understand where everyone is coming from. I want to the best of my ability, I want to go over and help as many different people as I can. And I want to understand what everyone is thinking of and about, and why certain thoughts are held. I'm just, I don't know. My eyes landed on this. Every kid deserves a fair chance to succeed in school without being singled out for discrimination and harassment. Deserves a fair chance to succeed without being singled out for discrimination and harassment. get Louisiana legislators to vote in favor of unfair treatment. I could just be confused here, but based off of everything that I've read here, this is to make sure everyone is safe, that the kids get the education that the parents want, and that people, even outside of schools, can't get accused. Because if you were born genetically male and you still have your genitals, walking into a female's bathroom could lead you to a bunch of different charges. And I'm just gonna say it. If a genetic guy touches a genetic woman and that woman files for sexual harassment or worse, it's not going to look good for you or anyone in that situation. I mean, in general, if anyone accuses anyone of that, that could be permanently on their record. So let me ask, and I'm just gonna end it here because I'm so lost. I'm starting to loop. Where in this, outside of the obvious dislike towards it, in raw terms, where do these bills specifically target LGBTQ? You can say that this is preventing children from being able to express themselves, but parents should know, and at the same time, I've heard stories of people abusing this. So a teacher requesting parental permission is for the security of the child, security of the teacher, so the teacher doesn't get accused of stuff. And then the security of the parent's conscience, because they know what's going on. And if a teacher can come up to them and say, hey, this is what's going on freely, or that there's precedence too, parents can feel secure knowing that their child isn't at the risk of getting attacked or anyone getting harmed, or that there's no accusations being thrown around falsely, because there's no situation where someone can get falsely accused. So if possible, please help this make sense to me. And I know that there is a lot of tension going around. And at this point, I feel like if anyone can explain what's going on, or explain how this is specifically hateful and targeting, please let me know. But that is all for now.